not in Shama'il Imam al-Tirmidhi, taking a little break and going to Kitab al-Shifa, the book called al-Shifa. By, who's the author? Qadi Iyad. Aywa, Al-Qadi Iyad. The chapter we're covering today is related to the bravery of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have the translation open in front of me, and I also have the Arabic text in front of me as well. Why is it important to study the qualities and characteristics of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Sallu alayhi. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. A sign of the people of Iman is that if they hear the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they send salawat upon them. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma ja'alna min ahli iman. إنما بعثت, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. So it's important for us to reflect in the prophetic character sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we could of course implement how he sallallahu alaihi wasallam behaved in his life, and try to get at least some of what he sallallahu alaihi wasallam had from his mountain of character. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. For us to get a bit of that would suffice us. Specifically bravery, and the reason I wanted to mention that is because if you, in the ayah that I read in the first rak'ah, Muhammadu Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم. When it comes to how they are amongst the believers, they are calm, they're sweet, they're soft, they're merciful. And they have izzah when they go outside, when they deal with the communities outside. أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ. But sadly, this quality for some reason, for some Muslims, it's been reversed. That when they go in front of their bosses, when they're around their co-workers, they act as though the other Muslims are backwards, and they're the ones that are up, they're the ones, mashallah, that know what's going on. And that the Muslims, they're the ones that are backwards. Muslim themselves, but they like to act like the other Muslims are backwards. And that if their boss says something, mashallah, you know when you give the animal a treat, like that, straight up, mashallah, always listens. But when it comes to the masjid, then fakhur, mutakabbir. It's my way or the highway. Why isn't the masjid going the way I like it? Why isn't the community going the way I like it? Why isn't it like this? Why isn't it like that? All of the Muslims, I'm the only one who cares. And sometimes, astaghfirullah, 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 we are all in pain because of what is happening to the people of Gaza. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring them aid and ease, Ya Rabbi. And two, Allahumma taqabbal shuhada'ahum warham mawtahum washfi mardahum. But they'll say, they'll take out whatever emotions they have on the Muslims. And we'll of course give excuses that this person is feeling such and such way because of what is happening in the world. But it doesn't give you an excuse to go take it out on your Muslim brothers and sisters. It doesn't give you an excuse to go take it out on your wife, take it out on your children. This is not excusable behavior. If you act a certain way, you're doing the opposite of what the Prophet ﷺ came to teach us. He came to teach us to be merciful and kind with one another. And when it comes to be brave, and the ta'rif that Imam Qadi Iyad, he gives is very beautiful. As for courage and bravery, courage is the virtue which consists of the force of anger. Meaning that this person, he has the anger, he's upset. But he doesn't just make it like a wildfire. He uses it like a weapon when it is made to obey the intellect. This person is upset, and he has a reason to be upset. But he uses it as a weapon properly, in its proper place. Not like a wildfire. This is bravery. When you're able to stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights, this is bravery. Not that you let loose, like a loose cannon and like a wildfire. Then Imam Qadi Iyad, he continues to say, bravery is the valor of the self when it is sent out to its death, where bravery rather than fear is praiseworthy. Is it better to be fearful in the battlefield or brave? Of course, to be brave, to protect yourself, to protect the people you love, to protect the ideas that you're aiming to defend. This is what the Prophet ﷺ, he was the best, he was the most brave ﷺ. When we understand brave, this is what we understand. Not harsh. Harshness is not bravery. Sometimes we confuse, this person, mashallah, he's so ghalidh. This person, he's so brave. No, this person is a fool. He gets himself in trouble every time someone cuts him off. He goes and yells at him, and he yells at him, and they come out of the car. Maybe the guy, he's holding something in his pocket. He doesn't know what's going to happen. This is not bravery. That's called foolishness or harshness or different things. Bravery is not even the same as strength. Who was stronger, Abu Bakr or Umar, physically? Umar radiallahu anhu. Who was more brave? Abu Bakr. He had the heart. that was more brave than Umar radiallahu anhu. That's Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. That's why he is ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار. That's the status of Abu Bakr. So now that you understand bravery, the Prophet ﷺ was the most brave as the Sahaba described him. رضي الله عنهم أجمعين. قولوا رضي الله عنهم. The Prophet ﷺ, he would, many times he was put in difficult positions, in difficult places in the middle of the battlefield, and where heroes and other valiant people would flee themselves, he ﷺ would stand firm and fight against the enemy ﷺ. So he is an example for us in how we are gentle, and he's also an example to us ﷺ and how he was brave ﷺ. Sallu alayhi. There's a few instances that I'm going to mention that Qadi Iyad mentions. In other books as well, they always mention these instances specifically. There is an instance where the Prophet ﷺ in the Battle of Hunain, after Fath Makkah, where the Prophet ﷺ now has 12,000 of the companions, they're going into the region of Hunain, and then for the rest of the Arab tribes that have not yet accepted Islam. And they were encamped out there, and then they caught them by surprise, and the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba are in this difficult position where they are now being surrounded. And the Sahaba in this situation, I'll narrate the hadith and I'll explain as I narrate it. A man had asked Al-Bara radiallahu an, did you desert the Prophet ﷺ in the Battle of Hunain? And then Al-Bara, he responded that لكن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يفر. He responded that the Prophet ﷺ, but the Prophet ﷺ, he did not flee. Meaning when it was at the heat of the battle, when they were being surrounded and whatnot, the Prophet ﷺ, he stood strong. Sallu alayhi. And then he added in this narration that I saw him on his white mule. Was he on a horse or a mule? It's important to remember. Abu Sufyan, his cousin, Ibn Ammihi, the son of Al-Harith, his uncle, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Not the famous Abu Sufyan that we all know. This is a different one, Ibn Ammihi. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, before I mention that, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it is narrated that he even got down from his mule on that time, and he made a dua, and the Abbas, his uncle, was holding on to the reins, and Abu Sufyan was there as well, his cousin, and the Prophet ﷺ was trying to go forward with the animal, trying to go forward, and Abbas, out of fear of the Prophet ﷺ, what was he doing? He was holding it back. He's like, I don't want Rasulullah ﷺ, I fear for him, I don't want him to go. Does a mule run into battle, or does a horse? A horse! But the Prophet ﷺ, no, he's brave, and what does usually a leader do when he is in this situation where they're being surrounded? What does he do? Sit in the back, he cowers right into the middle, make sure everyone is protecting him. MashaAllah, if he dies, then the whole project, everything goes with him. But the Prophet ﷺ, and I want you to sing these lines with me. He said, أَنَا النَّبِيُّ لَا كَذِبْ أَنَا ابْنُ عَبْدِ الْمُطَّلِبِ أَنَا النَّبِيُّ لَا كَذِبْ أَنَا ابْنُ عَبْدِ الْمُطَّلِبِ أَنَا النَّبِيُّ لَا كَذِبْ أَنَا ابْنُ عَبْدِ الْمُطَّلِبِ أنا النبي لا كذب أنا ابن عبد المطلب أنا النبي لا كذب أنا ابن عبد المطلب صلوا عليه. The Prophet ﷺ are not like the leaders. He ﷺ saying, I'm here, I am the Prophet. لا كذب, there is no lie here. Allah is going to give me victory. أنا ابن عبد المطلب. The Prophet ﷺ, he's courageous. At a time where he's supposed to be brave, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he is brave, he stands, he said, come to me. I have no fear of you. I am the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jalla. I have no fear of you. Come to me. أَنَا النَّبِيُّ لَا كَذِبْ أَنَا بْنُ عَبْدِ الْمُطَّلِبِ. So you see from this instance how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in a battle, in this heated place, in this heated moment, how brave the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was. Sallu alayhi. The next instance that is narrated, of course there's many instances. One of the narrations that we all know is that the Prophet ﷺ, did he ever get angry for himself? He would get angry for Allah Azza wa Jal. It is said that when the Prophet ﷺ was angry, and he was only angry for Allah, nothing could withstand his anger. The Prophet ﷺ, he never took revenge out for himself, and nor did he ever get angry for his own right being taken away, but only for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. But the Sahaba, on the other hand, did get angry for the right of Rasulullah ﷺ. And in some instances, that's why the ulama, they say, al-adab muqaddam ala al-amr. That because of how much adab they had with Rasulullah ﷺ, they could not tolerate seeing him not being given his rightly deserved status. Like the instance where the Prophet ﷺ, the treaty that was written, written Muhammadur Rasulullah as well, in the treaty. And the Prophet ﷺ, in the agreement that they had, they said, I'm not going to sign. From the Quraysh side, they said, I'm not going to sign on something that says you're Rasulullah, because I don't believe you're Rasulullah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he requested Ali radiallahu anhu to erase it. The Prophet ﷺ, what did he do? He told Ali to erase it. Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, I can't do that. I can't do this. He's disobeying over here though. He's disobeying. Al-adab muqaddam ala al-amr. Having high regard and respect for the Prophet ﷺ in situations like this is more so than even if the Prophet ﷺ himself said to do it. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he said, tell me where it is and I'll erase it. And the Prophet ﷺ, he erased it. Sallu alayhi. So Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, it's narrated that he said that I've never seen anyone more courageous or generous or pleasing than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sallu alayhi. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a master of all of the possible good qualities that a person could have. If one of us was generous, everyone in the masjid is going to know, man, this person is so generous. Every time inviting people, every time generous in the masjid, every time generous. And if a person is super kind and sweet, everyone's going to know, man, this person is so kind and so sweet. And if this person is brave, he'll be known for his bravery. The Prophet ﷺ, all of the good qualities you could possibly think of, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a master of it all. Sallu alayhi. Sayyidul Kawnayni wathaqalayn sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ali radiallahu anhu, there's many narrations about this. When the situation was hot, fear and intense, and the fighting was fierce, we were concerned for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And none was closer to the enemy than he was sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Who was the closest to the enemy? Who was in the front lines? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Especially in Badr, he wanted to give encouragement to the Sahaba that I'm fighting here with you. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ali radiallahu anhu, he narrates that I saw him on the day of Badr when we were keeping so close to him, and he was the closest to the enemy, and he was the bravest person on that day. And some of the Sahaba, they would even seek shelter behind the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, being behind him, because they knew if they are around the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they would be fine and taken care of. Sallu alayhi. And it was said, they would, the Sahaba themselves, they would say that the brave person was the one that stayed near the Prophet ﷺ. Because the nearer you got to him, the more you got into the heart and the heat of the battle. So this is where the Prophet ﷺ was, how brave he was and how courageous he was when it came time to being brave. There was one instance where, in Medina, especially in the time that the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ had many enemies. Sallu alayhi. He had the Yahud, he had the Munafiqun, he had the Mushrikun, the tribes of the Arab. So many people you can imagine that would want harm for the Muslims. And one night, there was a loud sound in Medina outside in the outskirts, and everyone is, they say, Urdu Parishan, what is happening? What is that? Is it possibly an enemy attack? We don't know, it's in the heat, it's at night time. Allahu A'lam, what's happening? And the Sahaba, as they're getting ready to, go out and see what it is, putting on their, gear and whatnot, as soon as they come out, they see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has already returned, and he was riding a horse with no saddle, nothing, bare back on the horse, like a warrior sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bare back on the horse, and his sword was hanging from his neck. Can you imagine? Subhanallah, with his broad chest and shoulders sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the description. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was not a weak man, strong, bare back on a horse. And that horse was actually known by the Sahaba to be very slow. And the Prophet ﷺ raced with it. And he came back, bare back on the horse with a sword hanging from his neck. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Look how brave he was. And he told them, don't worry, everything is fine. Nothing was there. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Can you imagine how brave he must have been? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One instance... Beautiful, subhanAllah. One hadith, wallahi, you could sit and derive hundreds of benefits from. One of these, this benefit is beautiful. That he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not wait for anybody to come and join him. He took initiative, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Beautiful. This next instance is also one of my favorites. Ubay ibn Khalaf. The Prophet ﷺ is known in Sirah to have killed one man. Who was it? Ubay ibn Khalaf. So now pay attention to this story. Ubay ibn Khalaf, he caught sight of the Prophet ﷺ in the battle of Uhud. Okay? And Ubay had been shouting, "Where is Muhammad? Where is Muhammad? May I not survive if he survives. May I not survive if he survives." And previously, before, when Ubay had been ransomed on the day of Badr, or his son, he had said, "I have a horse." This is what he said. He's like threatening the Prophet ﷺ. He's saying, watch what I do. He said, "I have a horse which I feed several measures of wheat every single day." Basically, this horse is, is very strong. It's like an Arabian strong horse. A stallion, that's what they call it, right? A stallion? Yeah.
This is a war horse.
A war horse. Yeah. I have a horse. SubhanAllah, if you go in the horse markets, some of them go up to like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's incredible. I have a horse which I feed several measures of wheat every single day. And then he threatened the Prophet ﷺ, and he threatened the wrong person. He said, "I will kill you if I'm riding him." He said, "I will kill you if I'm riding him." And the Prophet ﷺ, this part is so beautiful to me. He said, "Ana aqtuluka inshallah." He said, "I will kill you inshallah." Oh, subhanAllah, can you imagine those words coming out of the lips of the Prophet ﷺ? When he says this, khalas, you're gone. He said, "Ana aqtuluka inshallah." Look how strong that is. He gets threatened to be killed. He doesn't say, he's not passive. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Ana aqtuluka inshallah." I will be the one to kill you inshallah. Look at that bravery. Not passive and just letting things slide. No, there's a time to be brave. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "I will kill you if Allah wills." So on the day of Uhud, Ubay, he urged his horse on after him. Okay? So Ubay, he's looking, I remember this promise I made and this and that. I'm going to look for Rasulullah and I'm going to come after him. And so Ubay had urged his horse going after Rasulullah. And some of the Muslim men, they see this and they blocked his way. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Me and him only. Leave him alone. I'll deal with this guy." And then the Prophet ﷺ, he took a spear from one of the Sahaba, Al-Harith. Okay? And then the Prophet ﷺ, he shook it in such a way that all of the men that were with him, Ubay, khalas, they all went left and right. They don't want to be anywhere near where that spear is being thrown. And they're all afraid that the Prophet ﷺ, he's not going to miss his target. And the Prophet ﷺ, he turned to face him and he took the spear and he pierced him in the neck so that he swayed and then he fell from his horse. He fell from his horse. And then the people, they said that he broke a rib. And when he returned back to his people, he said, "Muhammad qatalani, Muhammad qatalani, inna Muhammadan qatalani, Muhammad has killed me, Muhammad has killed me." And they said, "La ba'sa alayk, la ba'sa bik, there's nothing wrong with you, it's nothing." And then he said, and because he knows what he just went through, he said, "Anyone would have been killed by what I have received." And then they said, "Did he not say, Ana aqtuluk? Did he not say, I'm going to kill you?" And then he said, that same person, Ubay, he said, "By Allah, if he had even spat on me, it would have killed me." SubhanAllah. They had yaqeen, they knew that this was help from Allah Azza wa Jal, but they yet still denied it because of the pride and arrogance that they had. And this Ubay ibn Khalaf, he actually died on their way back to Mecca. He actually died on the way back to Mecca. These are just few glimpses into the bravery of the Prophet ﷺ. There's a dua that we always make. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika minal. Who knows it? Min al-ajazi wal kasali wa qahri rijal. Wa dayni wa qahri rijai wa ghalabatin. No. من الجبن أيوة. ونعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. قولوا آمين. نعوذ بك من الجبن. We ask you, Ya Allah, we seek refuge from you to be those that are cowardice. We ask you, Ya Allah, to give us الشجاعة المحمدية, to give us القوة المحمدية, to give us الحلم المحمدي, الرحمة المحمدية, التواضع المحمدي, الصبر المحمدي. وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نبدأ البودة شيخنا.
I let Sheikh Isam to lead because the language of the Burda is mashallah.